Okay, I am Bryan Welding with El Paso County, and today's topic that I will be presenting is the Colorado Noxious Weed Act. Dun, dun, dun. The most exciting topic right after lunch. So I'll be keeping my eye on you. Okay, what is the Colorado Noxious Weed Act? In 1996, the Colorado Department of Agriculture passed the Colorado Weed Act to control invasive species throughout the state. So in essence, it's basically the state law that mandates the control of noxious weeds. So what is a noxious weed? Well, first of all, if you see this guy in your backyard, call us immediately. A noxious weed is a plant that's going to meet one or more of these following definitions. It's either aggressively invades or is detrimental to economic crops or native plant communities. It is poisonous to livestock. It is a carrier of detrimental insects, diseases, or parasites. Or the direct or indirect effect of this plant is detrimental to the environmentally sound management of natural agricultural ecosystems. Whew, it's a mouthful. Okay, once the Department of Agriculture has determined that an invasive plant is a noxious weed, then they go on to further define the noxious weed as either a List A, List B, or List C. So your List A plants are going to be plants that are very rare. They're found in small, isolated populations throughout the state, and there's a very good chance of eliminating them completely. So they're put on the List A. List B plants must either be eradicated, contained, or suppressed, depending on their location. We'll go over these definitions here in a minute. But a List B plant is a plant that's a little more widely dispersed. So they have different control methods that apply to them. And your List C species, well, these are the ones that are widely spread, and control is recommended, and it can be mandated by local government. These are ones that are so profuse, such as the common mullein that was discussed earlier, that a lot of people just even think that they're native weeds. And to eradicate them is going to be probably out of the question. So they're put on the List C species. One thing I'd like to point out, that in order to be on the noxious weed list here in Colorado as it stands now, it must be a non-native invasive species. That's not the case with all states. Washington State, for example, they do have some native plants that are on the noxious weed list. But here in Colorado, as it stands now, it's got to be from somewhere else. All right, going into the definitions of the control methods. So the eradication means just that. We're wiping it out completely, doing everything in your power, using all the integrated pest management procedures that you learned earlier today to completely eliminate a List A species from the face of the state. Containment is a little bit different. This is going to apply to a List B species. Containment just means that you're basically maintaining an intense buffer zone from different areas. Imagine, if you will, if you had a 5-acre plot of land. Up here in the northwest acre, you've got a heavy dispersion of some List B species plant. Down here in the southeast corner, you've just got a very small isolated population. Well, what you want to do in containment is make sure that this big population isn't spreading any further while you're attempting to eradicate the small population down here. Then after that occurs, you go back to your larger population and start working on that and do the best that you can. So that, in essence, is containment. A very sad little flower behind bars here. Suppression, well, that's what you get when you're trying to suppress. The last speaker was talking about bindweed and her hatred of that. Suppression is going to be on those plants, typically the List C species, and in some cases List B species that are very widely spread, to where eradication isn't really going to be feasible. So with suppression, we're just doing everything that we can to exhaust the plant's viability and reduce the population as much as possible. Okay, some of the List A species that we have here in El Paso County, and some are listed in your book. By the way, the book's not all-encompassing. That's our biggest offenders that we have here. Tina Travis, who will be speaking later, is going to go over some identification skills, so I'm not going to spend too much time with these. Some of the List B species that are found in El Paso County, and some of the List C species. All right, next part of the Colorado Noxious Weed Act is the duty to manage noxious weeds. It is the duty of all persons to use integrated methods to to manage the noxious weeds to the best of ability. These are the things that we had, the presenters talked about earlier today. We got your biological control that Dr. Bean spoke of. We got cultural control, that's the clipping the weed heads, or seed heads, and mowing and things of that nature. Mechanical, I'm sorry. And Cecily touched on that. Greg touched on the cultural, which is the overseeding. This is a little project that we did up north here where we had a disturbed area. And then obviously, as Dr. Nissen was discussing, the herbicide control. All right. The next aspect of the Colorado Noxious Weed Act is the County Weed Management Plan. And that just mandates that the Board of County Commissioners in each of the different counties must adopt a noxious weed plan that's specific to their individual counties. And here in El Paso County, we have just that. It's the El Paso County Noxious Weed Management Plan. Now, our plan here in El Paso County basically mirrors the Colorado Noxious Weed Act with just a couple of subtle, fine tweaks. And this information can be found on our website if you're interested in going into it a little bit further. And that information is in your booklet at the end. The Local Advisory Board, FWAC, you had a little experience with them. Our local advisory board is the Forestry and Weed Advisory Commission, and you've met a couple of the members out here today, fondly referred to as FWAC. This is a group of landowners that are representative of the county from the different districts throughout the county, and also some technical advisors. And we meet once a month over here at the Environmental Division building and basically discuss various ways that landowners are affected by the noxious weeds and what we can do to disseminate education and information. And one of the things that we do, or the FWAC does, I should say, to promote that is they have a yearly weed walk. And last year we had it up in Palmer Park. So when it comes up this year, be looking for it. It's actually a great opportunity to get out in the wild and see plants up close and personal in their not native habitat. Remember, non-native. Okay, rights of way management. This is a topic that is near and dear to a lot of landowners who say, well, I've got noxious weeds and you notified me about it, but I see it right there in the right of way. How come you guys aren't doing anything about it? Well, actually we do. It's very intensive, that the process that we go through to control the noxious weeds in the right of way, as well as what landowners are expected to do. One of the things that some landowners might misinterpret is the actual right of way itself. The right of way itself, like Kathy had mentioned earlier, is typically 60 feet. So that's going to be 30 feet from the middle of the road. And in some cases, that means that the right of way doesn't butt up all the way up to a property fence line, which is a common misconception. And let's see, what's another thing that we did? So, how do we let you know if you have noxious weeds on your property? Contrary to popular belief, it's not usually nosy Mrs. Kravitz across the street saying, I saw some weeds over in their house. We have 3 different ways here in El Paso County that we actually go about identifying noxious weeds. And the first is that you, the affected landowner, give us a call, and then we come out and inspect the property for you. This is free of charge. We do this as we have time permitting. We do have some staff limitations, but we come out and help you identify and devise a weed management plan. Another way, this would be the Mrs. Kravitz. If somebody on a neighboring property has seen or suspects that you have noxious weeds on your land that may encroach their land, they can call us. But much like vampires, we can't go on your property unless you invite us. So if a neighboring landowner contacts us, we'll go meet with them, and if we see something from their property or from the right-of-way, then we'll notify that landowner if they do have an infestation of noxious weeds. And the third, this is the most common. Yearly, county staff personnel will inspect the right-of-ways, making sure that we're doing what we need to do on our property. And if we notice that a private property that's adjoining the right-of-way has noxious weeds that we can see from the right-of-way, we'll send you a notification to let you know what you have and how to treat it. Okay, how is the Noxious Weed Act enforced? This is the dun-dun-dun part. What we do here in El Paso County is if we have detected that you have a noxious weed on your property, the first thing that we do is we send you a notification via certified mail. A lot of people say, well, why do you send it certified mail? It seems like a waste of money. That's actually the state mandate, and we have to follow that procedure. That ensures that you did receive the notification. And in that notification, there's going to be a couple of things. It's going to be a description of what the plant is, how you can take care of it, and you're also going to receive a postcard saying what you plan to do. The next part of this is you have 10 days to either comply or submit a management plan. If you have received one of these postcards before, one of the things that people might have a misconception on, say you have 15 acres of leafy spurge. Well, how am I going to get rid of it in 10 days? You can't, and we understand that. So what we ask is, if it's not a small enough population that you will be eliminating in 10 days, is just give us on the postcard an idea of what you're going to do, what your management plan is, how you plan on controlling it. If you have no idea what the plant looks like or how to control it, you can contact one of either myself or Tina, and we'll come out to your property and help you with that management plan. Then annually after that, we continue to monitor the right-of-way. So if we do see reinfestation on your property, we let you know again. But we do keep records to where if you've been notified in the past, we know that you've been notified, and we're just trying to assist you in whatever means we can to help you along with your management plan. Okay, this is not my area of expertise, but this topic comes up quite a bit. Not quite a bit, but every now and then here in the county, is if folks have organic ranch or an organic farm and they're concerned about the application of herbicides, if they've been detected that there's noxious weeds on their land, then they're going to be hesitant to use herbicides because of the fact that it is an organic ranch. And one of the things that we look for first is if you're actually a certified organic ranch or farm, and we go from there. We strive extremely hard to make sure that we work with any organically certified landowners to make sure that they aren't doing anything that compromises their certification or something that they might not be comfortable with their land. And as you learned today, there's a lot of integrated pest management techniques that we can walk you through to try to help. With the List A species, it's a little bit different because eradication is a necessity, but again, we'll work with you on that. And I tried to make this quick and painless as possible, but I know that since you just had lunch, this is probably what you look like right now. I'd like to thank you all so much for your attention today. I appreciate it.